Hey guys, welcome back to the Om Way. I'm Megan Kieran, and today we have a very, very special guest whom I've known for over a decade. His name is Ra Ransom Kennedy. He is a private chef, a men's coach, and a Qigong practitioner. So, welcome, Ransom. Thank you so much for taking the call and coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful to be here and to dive into whatever spirit wants to weave through this conversation with you.
Ah, beautiful. And that's just well said because I think it will naturally arise what is meant to be heard by my listeners today and our listeners, right? So can you just give everyone a little background of how you started your journey, how you started on your spiritual path?
Yeah, I think it goes back to my mother. And I always had this like idea that I wasn't religious, but I was spiritual. And I didn't necessarily know what that meant. But I got that from my mom of like she believed in spirituality, but didn't necessarily adhere to one religion, even though we would like go to church for the holidays. And mostly my mom loved going to church for the holidays for the singing aspect and like the connection through community in that way.
That's beautiful. So I guess throughout your life you always felt like there was something beyond what you were seeing as far as religion goes and perhaps what the community around you was doing. Where was that point where you decided like there's really something more out there? Um, was there something that happened or was it kind of like very subtle? It kind of creeped up into your life?
Well, I think psychedelics helped me expand my horizons in college when I began experimenting with different psychedelics and opening my conscious into different realms and like being able to see things that I wasn't seeing in my default setting, like
Hmm.
whether
Hmm.
it was like the walls breathing or like the clouds showing me images or yeah, just or like closing my eyes and seeing like the multidimensional fractals of the cosmos within psychedelic trips. But those didn't like I would say it was more like there I did have like a point that was like a big spiritual awakening moment that was, many years later.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of slowly was creeping up on you. And then I do want to hear more about that split, but what's really coming to me is like the aspect of vision for you. So you seeing things in your reality begin to bend and change. And I think that is something where certain people have different like abilities, but clear cognizant, if they want to say it's a category, is the ability to, see things with your third eye. But also, I think when we open our eyes and visually see things, like you said, you can see the clouds breathe. It's like there is something more that we're able to comprehend and perceive in this reality than we've been taught and told. And I like the introduction through psychedelics in a way that brought you to your spiritual path, because some people do it for fun. But when you do it intentionally and you're able to see things open up, it's like, it's such a powerful tool.
Yeah, and I'll say like when I first was doing the psychedelics, it was very much a doing and not like intentionally co-creating with. And I found that on the journey, it was pretty like this natural. I don't know where, I'm curious where it first came from, but I always wanted to circle up. I was like, I want to circle up and have like an intention setting before we imbibe in whatever molecule that
Mm.
was about to shift our state of being. And I mean, it, I think it's probably from, cheers. Like people cheers and have a toast with alcohol, and that's a very normal thing. And I think it's not said this way, but it's kind of an intention setting. It's like, oh, have a toast. I'm going to set all these intentions and say all these words, and now we're going to imbibe. And so I think it maybe just naturally came from that energetic as I came from a family that had a lot of toasts and a lot of cheers moments. And that was like the intention setting. I've never really put that together before.
Ah, that's beautiful. And for the family to come up too, our ancestors are really wanting us to tap into them right now, I believe, because it's within us, right? Within our DNA to do these things. But the way you're alchemizing and changing the traditions that your family have had into something more ceremonious, whether it even is like an intention setting before, even before you even knew what you were doing, right? With the taking like a psychedelic or something, and then now moving into probably the larger work that you're doing now, when there's more conscious intention setting. It's interesting how that's all how it changes, right? And a lot of people right now, especially people who come on this podcast and listen to it, are the cycle breakers, the change makers, and it's not like we're saying no to older traditions, but we're changing it in a way that's
Mm.
supporting the new earth. So that's super cool.
Yeah, I definitely see myself as one that is breaking generational and ancestral trauma and connecting with community that is choosing that path as well. And within that, like I shout out my mom as the first, like she was doing it before me. And so, yeah, she was paving the way. And yeah, I feel like she like opened the crack and I'm like, cool, there's the wedge. Boom! Like I'm gonna
Yes.
fucking wedge it
Yes.
open. And yeah, it is
Wow.
alchemy. And like, yeah, how do we give reverence to our ancestors that were doing the best with what they could at the times that they were in, with the alignment of the stars that were there? Like it's yeah, it's I think that is a good way to put it because it's not about necessarily shaming ancestors. It's like yeah, like we're here because we have hundreds of grandparents that are behind us and they went through hard fucking shit to get us here. And so to just like completely disown or dishonor isn't the way. And while they, may have had some malintentions or made mistakes, like, yeah, how do we use these practices and make them more current and aligned with the times and what we wish to create now?
Yeah, and that was so beautifully said. That's an activation. Your words are very activating. I just have to say that I'm sure a lot of people hear that as well. But
Thank you.
the times have changed, right? And so the earth that they grew up in and what they had known and the programming that they were under, was a lot denser than what we're going through right now, right? At a certain point, I'm sure there's a split, but our ancestors probably went through a lot, right? The past couple thousands of years, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. The energies are supporting us right now a lot more, and it may not seem that way for a lot of people who are witnessing the chaos in the world, but this is the time where change is really, really ripe and it's right in front of us, and we can instantly manifest and change things in our bloodline. We can
Mm-hmm.
just be done with that. So moving forward, it just gives a clean slate, but it also like heals our bloodline, if that makes sense, So it's interesting. It works both ways. And I love that your mom was the catalyst for you. That's beautiful.
100%. We can definitely heal our bloodlines and heal behind us and heal the past. And
Yes.
yeah, that change that you speak of, I know it to be true. And just my mom the other day was like, she was like celebrating me, and she was like, I love that you know that if you want to create change, like change the way you see something and versus like needing to change something. And yeah,
Mm,
she's definitely with me on this path within evolution and spirituality. And I think as children, we have the ability to change our mothers more than our fathers because of that like umbilical like cord
mm,
that's created and the energetical cord. Like I've heard through different spiritual teachings that like a child can like heal the mother within the same lifetime with the healing that the child does to itself. Um, and I see that very clearly within my own connection of what I'm up to and watching it amplify in my mother and back and forth.
oh my gosh. Yeah, that mirrors my relationship with mine as well. And it makes me think of my kids when, they're only 1 and 2, but they healed me. Like the whole process of creation with them and like the connection with them, they definitely healed me. And they're coming down with a lot higher of a frequency than we did, right? It's just because the earth is constantly evolving and growing and more light is coming down. So yeah, they're super activating and we're super activating for our mothers and it's just interesting how that has gone down the line. So that's very cool. I would love to go back and hear more about that breaking point where you went through that big spiritual awakening. Um,
Yeah.
you said years later something happened.
Yeah, so about 9 years ago, let's see, it's 2026. Yeah, 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago, I broke my femur snowboarding. Um, and yeah, this was definitely my like kind of grand spiritual awakening.
Hmm.
And what's funny about that is for a while, I didn't think it was. But through this process of like, for me, the energetic there was that I was riding too close to the sun, kind of like Icarus. And I was starting to behave in ways with alcohol that could have gone down a real dark path. Um, and getting more loose and lenient within my discipline of that, and just partying more and using more substances that weren't supportive, and weren't as like consciousness expanding and more adulterated and I think harmful on the body. And yeah, through that process, I went on a lot of pain pills. And like for me, I see it as a divine demolition that happened because I broke my femur. Within moments, ski patrol was there. Like the guy, I'm like screaming, and like these guys are down out of the woods and they're like, "You okay?" And I just don't stop screaming, just like, and they run up to me, and one of the guys like, "We need to get ski patrol here." And the other guy's like, I am ski patrol. And I was like,
Wow.
whoa, okay.
Perfect.
And so like within 10 minutes, they're skiing me down the mountain. And I was so fucked up that I was like, yeah, this is fun. Like, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna ride for the rest of the day. Like, I was in a lot of pain, but I didn't really know. And then they took me and got me an X-ray and
Mm,
they're like, your femur's broken. We need to get surgery on this. And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, give me as much drugs as you can. I don't want to feel this. And I was like, and give me those free drugs. They weren't free, by the
mm,
way. That was one of the most medically expensive years of my life, 100,000 plus dollars in
wow.
medical fees. And yeah, within 4 hours, they put a metal rod into my bone marrow and about four screws. And the next morning, they said, hey, if you want to leave this hospital, you have to walk first. So they made me walk in order to get out, which
Wow.
is incredible. And like, shout out Western science, Western medicine for this
Yes.
ability to heal in this way. Like the ability that we have to do certain surgeries in Western medicine is phenomenal. And I honor that.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I walked. It was so painful. They were like, it's just weight bearing, it's just pain. So like you can walk, but it's just based off of pain. And I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I was on Oxycontin, morphine, Valium, blood thinners, and like Tylenol, and I had a schedule, and I was like, cool. How can I do the most by being also responsible? And
Mm.
our friend Becca, Becca
Oh,
Shoemaker,
yep.
she like I think she was like a nurse or something, but like she like wrote out this whole schedule of like when I could do all these pills and all the timing of it, and like I just like really dialed it in. Like shout out Becca, that was super supportive. And I was like using a lot of cannabis for coping, and yeah, I spent a lot of time on the couch. I stopped smoking cigarettes at that point. I think I tried to smoke a cigarette the next day, and my body was like, "What the fuck?
You
Like,
just can't.
this is not good." And stopped drinking alcohol. I think I drank alcohol once within that recovery period, and I felt terrible the day after with how many meds I was on. And I went to rehab in high school.
Hmm.
More on that at another time. But I was wise within my substance use to a degree.
Right.
I had an awareness of what addiction could be. And then there was like the social normality that I was like, oh, I'm within this
You're like on
normal
a
social
line.
range,
Hmm.
which to
Hmm.
me now I look
Hmm.
at as not so normal. But I was like, cool, like I'm gonna be like choiceful and wise about this. So I started to wean myself off all these meds on my own. And I was realizing that like people started to stop visiting me and people just kind of went on with their lives. And I was still just laid up on the couch. Um, I had support within the first month or two, and I actually went to Shelby's house for a bit.
Yeah.
Shout out Shelby's mom. They
Nice.
took me in while I was like really fresh
Right.
in recovery, and yeah, but then after like 2 months, it was like people just went on with their lives. And I went on and I just was just watching a lot of TV and napping and essentially like the Oxycontin was like a hug for me. I was looking forward
Mm.
to the moment I could take it. Like I was being
Mm.
disciplined, but I was like itching for when,
You were thinking about it a lot.
yeah, it's like when can I
Yeah.
take that next Oxy? Because that's what makes me feel good right now,
Yeah.
which was fucked. And through this process, I eventually weaned off of everything. And I also started to like more healing things started to come into my toolkit and through connections. And I remember those two kind of big moments. I remember just being like the sun was setting. I was on the phone with my mom, and I had this epiphany of like, I realized that I was really good at loving other people and giving love to other people, but I actually didn't love myself. And I was always the one that was like the happy, drunk, loving, like probably sloppy lover,
Right.
just like, I love you, like type of energy.
Yep.
But not, but I wasn't putting that inwards. And so that was like a huge rock bottom energetic. And I'm pretty sure I went sober for 2 months. I went through like a detox of the oxys. I didn't realize it, but I was like sweating for a few days, like had like these shaking things. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And then I like told someone about it and they're like, you stopped taking the oxys? I was like, yeah, like they're like, you're going through withdrawal. I was like, oh fuck. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and so like I remember Kayleen had this. It's
Mm.
so funny to bring all these characters
Yeah.
back in
Yeah. Because
in the
we
mix.
know everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, and Kayleen was like on this like perfect way to start the day thing. It was like 10 minutes meditation, 10 minutes visualization, 10 minutes affirmation, 10 minutes reading, 10 minutes writing, 10 minutes yoga. And I
I
did
love
that for
that.
like a month. And then instead of like waking and baking, because I was waking and baking before that. And
Mm.
that was like, I was like, whoa, I feel high after all of this without smoking. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
like this
Mm-hmm.
really big thing to feel high without using another substance to get high. And that was pretty big for that. And I remember the funny part about this is like when I look back, it's very clear that this was my spiritual awakening. But I was starting to listen to a lot of podcasts at this time. Did you ever listen to the Positive Head podcast?
I haven't.
That was like one of my first ones. I haven't listened to it in a while because I feel like I've grown
Right.
past that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like one of my first ones. And then I also was reading this book. Um, it was like The Anatomy of Spirit. Have you read that book?
No, that sounds amazing though.
Yeah, it's this healing book, and it was about all these kind of miraculous healings that through the seven chakras
Mm-hmm.
that people went through and had healed, and there was a while during this time that I was like, oh, like I didn't have cancer, so this isn't my spiritual awakening, or I didn't almost die, or
Mm,
my story isn't good enough, or I'm not like, this wasn't like as bad as like someone who had Lyme's disease, or like, because I was reading about, I was listening, like I got so
right.
into healing at this point, and so I was listening to all these different like healing miracle people, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, like I actually like that doesn't count because like I wasn't sick or it wasn't a disease, like I had an accident, so whatever. And so I was like really downplaying myself and like
Yeah.
and not like in relation probably to this like not loving myself, in relation to feeling unworthy. And yeah, so it took me a while to actually be like, no, this was my spiritual awakening. And maybe it happened through a span of events. It wasn't just like one day I was like, I'm having a spiritual awakening.
Right.
Like, like I think a spiritual awakening can look different for everyone. And it actually
Yes.
can be a puzzle piece of like, okay, this plus this plus this plus this plus this, and
Mm-hmm.
then add it all up together. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, actually, now that I'm looking at it, I can actually see and make more meaning of it.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And it's like a domino effect, but that big thing happened, but then there's a lot of other stuff that happens after that. And that's the healing journey. And that's where the real work comes in, the magic comes out. And that's when we actually have to start diving deep, which is something that when you first get into the spiritual world, I don't think you realize, right? Like it seems beautiful, rainbows, butterflies, expanding your consciousness, connecting with other energies that are out there, but right in front of us and tapping into your spirit guides. But then you don't realize that we're still on Earth. Our body is so important, and we have to learn to bring those energies down and ground them and learn how to live with this knowingness and the divinity. And I think that's something that's very interesting because your experience had a lot to do with your body, right? And um, I want to learn more about how that brought you to your work right now, and where the path ended up leading you.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I love that reflection of seeing this relation to the body as the way to spirit, and that reminder of importance of being grounded in this physical world while tapping into spiritual energies. Like I think when I first was on this spiritual journey, like yes, there was body things I was working with. I was definitely working with. And like it was so much more fun to just be in the spirit realm. Like
Oh,
it was so
yeah,
much easier,
it
and like
is.
which is kind of similar to like just getting high on substances. It's a similar
That is
energetic.
so true.
It's
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
easier. It's way
Yeah.
easier to get high and
Yeah.
forget the body, and because pain can be stored in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like spiritual pain is it's different. It's like it's lighter.
It is.
Literally, it's lighter. And
Right.
so like yeah, so that physical density and working with that is definitely super important. And that is totally like being a chef, Qigong
Mm.
practitioner, and men's work. Like these are all three huge grounding practices of
Yes.
spirituality. And like I just remember that in my Saturn return, I was super lost, not knowing what to do. And I had started sitting with ayahuasca, and my ayahuasca teacher led me on the path to Qigong. And like she was like, we did Qigong, I think it was like afterwards or something. And she was like, you need to do this all the time. Like you need to get into your body. You're so up here. And so yeah, that was like a big thing for me. And so I remember I went to a festival sober. Um, and I did Qigong, and I was super fucking high after it. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. And like, it was my
Yeah.
first time ever being on a festival sober. And like, I got so much out of it. And
Wow.
um, yeah. And then I just kind of kept seeking Qigong here and there. And then I was in Costa Rica on some like cacao tour and talking to this guy, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in this Qigong program." I'm like, "Oh, is that this?" He's like, "Yeah, I know this guy," and it was my teacher's teacher, and so it was like, I was like, "All right," and he's like, "Yeah, the next year program starts next month or whatever." It's like there's still spaces. I was like, "I'm in." And
Wow.
I talked to this guy, and he's a shout out David Bowdry. He's a super Jedi doing the work, creating family, and yeah, bringing all the different practices as well. And so, yeah, I did his program for like a year and a half and got certified in the 200 hours of the somatic Qigong practitioner with his program. And
Wow.
that was a deep dive, like getting into that consistent practice with that. And I started on the second year program with him, but it was more on like somatic coaching, which I just didn't feel like why I wanted to be there. Like part of
Right.
why I wanted to be there was accountability in my movement practice, because at that point it was really hard for me to stay accountable to a movement practice without
Mm.
external support. And
That
so
makes,
that really helped me. And I was most of my Qigong practice has been purging practices like
can you give a
tapping.
little, I'm sorry, can you give a little info about what Qigong is, just for people who don't know much about it?
Yeah, totally. So Qigong translates from Chinese to energy skill. And it's from traditional Chinese medicine. And it's a cousin to yoga. And actually, I think it was the yogis that were meditating that made their way to China and started chilling with like the Taoists and like the martial artists,
Hmm.
and it kind of fused together.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And so like it comes from that, from Taoism and from these internal skills. And there's been time periods where it's been very secret because of its power and its healing abilities, and it's been kept secret. And it was actually kind of outlawed for a while once the United States had influence on China, and all this Western medicine was so popular, they outlawed it in China,
Wow.
and they actually were like
Wow.
killing off practitioners. But every hospital in China, or like many hospitals in China, used to have Qigong healers in them.
Wow.
And so Qigong works with the different meridian lines in the
Okay.
body that connect to the different organs. And there's many types of Qigong. And so it's similar to yoga practice where it's using movement and breath and
Hmm.
intention. Um, and it's more of a standing practice. That's the biggest difference. It can be a seated practice, but it's like seated on a chair
Okay.
is the bigger part. And for
Wow.
me, like the more like part of the most potent part of it is like the tapping and the sounding.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there's like six sounds. There's ha, there's s, there's sh, there's choo, there's, and the sixth one, it's blanking my mind in this moment. But yeah, maybe it's
There's
just
six
five.
of them.
Yeah, there's six of
Okay.
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um,
Hmm. That's
yeah, I'm in my second, I'm in a new school called Yochi University. Definitely recommend Yochi, Yoqi. She has so many free YouTube videos, and that's how I also started out. And then I finally just recently in the past year invested in her teacher training program, and I'll be going to a retreat here in Colorado at Bayul this summer to
wow.
meet her and to do it. So yeah, it's cool to learn these different schools of Qigong, but I do a lot of
Yeah.
like body tapping, body clearing, and it's
Okay.
super grounding, and it's also purging. Like I find that because I'm so sensitive to energy. And so
Yeah.
if you feel super sensitive to energy, Qigong purging is a super potent way to cleanse energy. Like, yes, we can sage. Yes, we can use tobacco. Yes, we can use different like water cleansings or herbs, but like the literal physical tapping on the body with breath and then specific sounds, huge, huge for clearing other people's energy.
Wow. Thank you for that nugget. I'm going to take that as well because I think that's something that I had no awareness around. The body is coming through today. I love that.
Yeah.
That is powerful stuff. And I love that they had those practitioners in the hospitals. And I think that's something that we need to bring here, right? Like
Yeah.
my
Bring
husband
that
works for
holistic, where the holistic hospitals at?
that's what I'm saying. Like, my husband works for a massive hospital and runs their cancer centers, and they have Reiki volunteers that go in. So it's starting to trickle in. I just think that more of these conversations will bring more attention to it and energy to it, and will really help heal people holistically, which is so important because it just will help everyone have a better experience on this planet, right? If we're all healed.
Totally.
Um, and so all of that is amazing. And you're also involved in men's circles. I want to hear all about your offerings, what you're up to, and where people can find you, which I will link below as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I started my own men's circle called the Bro Dojo with my brother John Paul, one of my dear brothers. I actually live with him. And yeah, this is a more advanced men's work. It's because we bring in sexuality. And so it's not so basic. And we dive deep within the realms of Qigong, within relational brotherhood, and then also a practice that John Paul brings called sex kung fu. And it's about harnessing and cultivating our sexual energy as men with discipline and opening up our energy centers. And John Paul is trained with Mantak Chia, and the way is the way of the multi-orgasmic man, which is how I originally got into, um, you know, um tantra, like sexual tantra, is I was like, oh, like as a man, I want to have more pleasure, more. I was like, oh, the Kama Sutra. Like it was very surface reasons why I got into it, and actually realizing like sexual life force can fuel me in my life in more than ways than just the bedroom. And so it's like this alchemy practice because I see and have a story that there's a lot of distraction of sexuality, a lot of leaking of sexual energy, and through the media, through TV, through people watching porn, through
Hmm.
people addicted to porn. I was addicted to porn as a child, and so it's with the access that people have now, it's very easy to be there. And so we support men in creating new ways and not shaming sexuality like I see the church has done, but
Hmm.
creating new holistic ways that to be in alignment with sexuality, to be in co-creation with our own sexual life force.
I think that is such important work that you guys are doing. It's groundbreaking for the new earth because this is something that is really deeply seated in men, in our ancestors, in our DNA. And for intimacy to be something that is seen in a way that's respected and supportive and in alignment with divine energy is just so powerful. So shout out to you and your brother John Paul for creating a sacred space and community for men because we see a lot of women's circles, we see a lot of women in the spiritual community. We need we need just as many men in this community, and by uplifting them and feeling supported in very similar ways is only going to help and heal the planet more, right? That's my ultimate goal, and I think a lot of people,
For the
doing this
children,
for the children,
for the
and
children
all.
and the woman. That's like, that's
Oh,
it.
yeah,
That's it. We have a responsibility, especially as men, to stand and be protectors and be guides and to have purpose. And it's been distorted. And so coming back to that is super important. Uh, we have a
yeah,
online group. It's a free WhatsApp channel, and we host donation-based calls. Definitely will share you that link.
Yes,
in the
please.
notes for that WhatsApp group. And then, yeah, the donation-based monthly calls that we have. And then super exciting, July 18th and 19th, we're hosting an in-person immersion in New York City in Brooklyn. And it's from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern time each day. And it's going to be super potent. So if you're in the area and you're feeling that tingle, that call, like definitely reach out. We'll have the link in the show notes as well.
Yes, we will. Oh my
Um,
goodness, I need to learn more
yeah,
about that and what you're doing there because that is awesome. Because I'm in New York and I just love that there's more community showing up in a dense area like this. So
totally.
awesome. And so I'll link your handle, your links, everything below. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me. You know, we've been friends for a while and our paths led us to the same place. So I love
Yeah.
that. That's really in alignment. So thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Can I make one more plug?
Plug it up.
Yeah. So the other men's group that I'm a part of is Sacred Sons. And this is a worldwide organization that I've been cooking with. I think I've been to 36 events with them over the past four
Wow.
years. And yeah, the embodiment work that I've done, like I've literally gained 30 pounds in the past few years. And through weights, through eating meat again, through doing these embodiment practices, and my capacity through that has expanded with and now I'm literally watching it happen within my relation with my beloved, like watching my capacity to hold her and her wild femininity and like the vastness that is a woman and being able to like be that contained man that creates the structure and holds a space. And so it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's a wonderful thing to make relationships with women stronger is to make relationships with men stronger. And I used to go to men, I used to go to women, pardon me. I used to go to women for all my emotional problems.
Yep.
And if you're a sensitive man listening to this, you might be able to relate because I only felt safe with women to talk about emotional things because a woman has such a wonderful capacity to listen and is
Mm-hmm.
so in tune with their emotions for the most part. And so I felt safe that way. And now it's actually at this tipping point where I talk to my bros more about my emotions, about my vulnerabilities than my sisters. And I
Wow.
love having sisters that I can go through to talk to things about. It's important. And having men that I can bring my vulnerabilities to, my shadows, my fears, and be seen, welcomed, heard, loved through has been astronomically healing and supportive. And so having going to Sacred Sons has been huge in that because the brotherhood is spans across the whole world. Like we have literally people all across the globe doing this work,
I love
and
that.
it's potent.
We need to link them below too, so people can access them, especially men that are just entering this whole area and want to dive deeper. And to have bros you can talk to with this just means like they've done the work too. So now everyone's kind of expanding and then everyone goes out and helps light each other up and it just is a ripple
Mhm.
effect. So these ceremonies and things that we invest in have a huge impact, not just on ourselves, but the people that we interact with. So,
Yeah, the next one is in July, and it'll be in San Diego. I think it's July 8th through 12th for just men. And then I don't know what you're doing, Megan, but in August. Towards the end of August, I think it's the 20th to the 25th. We'll check the link for the real dates, but is Remembrance, which is like a 300, 400 person ceremony with families and with men and
oh
women.
wow.
We're starting to bring in
Where is
women.
that?
This is in Brennan, Washington. It's about 2 hours from Seattle
Nice.
at
Okay.
Camp Parsons, and yeah, it's we're start like the founders and the visionaries of Sacred Sons are starting to bring in women and children into these spaces and like still having just men's events for, the training that we do. And we're starting to bring it into community. And it's beautiful because within my own self, like I'm witnessing my shift of like gearing towards creating family and like
Hmm.
seeing how much life is preparing me to be a father in so many ways of expanding my capacity and giving me more responsibility and like really showing up and like
Mm-hmm.
and it makes sense because I'm hanging out with a bunch of fathers, with men, with like all these people in my community within Sacred Sons are having kids or have already had kids, and like there's just a different posture that happens with
Yeah,
that.
there is. They're activating. They really
Yeah.
are. But then you
Yeah.
step into a greater role. And it impacts every aspect of your life, right? So your men's work is going to expand too. The more that, you interact with your little beings. It's just such a cool experience. But we definitely have to discuss more about that offline. That sounds super exciting. And I'm going
Yeah.
to link everything below, you guys. Again, I know I've said this a bunch of times, but you're bringing a bunch of cool offerings for people. So, and I'm hoping that this manifests to men that need it. That's my intention here.
Yes. So
Awesome. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you so much for coming on, and we must definitely do this again.
yeah, you're so welcome. And thank you all to the listeners tuning in. I appreciate your presence and look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Namaste.
Peace.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please check out my socials at The Om Way on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Spotify. You can also find me at theomlight.com. Sessions are now open and available. One-on-one sessions are super helpful for anything you may be going through in your life to help you feel more aligned and clear.